Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm sharing an on the menu video this week of all of the recipes that I made throughout the week. So I had 4 of them. Of course, we had like leftovers, and then we had a pizza night one night. But I think often I share like grocery hauls and I'll tell you what I'm gonna be making, or I'll do like a meal planning video where I plan out what dinners I'm making for the week, but I don't often, I do often share recipes, but you know what I mean, like a whole week's worth of dinners and meal ideas. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this style video. There's 4 different recipes. We have a barbecue chicken panini melt, lemon basil orzo pasta salad. That was delicious. I want to make that again very soon. Broccoli cheddar soup and a white chicken chili. So we're getting into warmer weather, but it's still cold and kind of damp and rainy, of course, in the spring here. So wanted to incorporate, you know, those warm, cozy like soups and chilies, but also a fresh, lemony kind of dish to open up our palates for the spring. I hope you guys get some meal ideas and like this video. We will jump right into it. To start off making the panini melt, I wanted to prep some caramelized onions. Since they do take quite a bit of time to cook, this is something that you can totally do ahead of time. You can store it in the refrigerator in an airtight container for a couple of days and then add them like as you will to like flatbreads, paninis like this, and they will warm through. So starting out with a yellow onion, I just sliced this. I used about a half of a yellow onion, sliced that right up, and then I cooked this in a frying pan on very low heat with a mixture of butter and oil. You want it on low so that the onions don't burn and they can really take their time to cook and turn that beautiful caramel color. I did add some sea salt. I like to add just a little bit of sea salt. Some people do like to add brown sugar to amp up the sweetness, or so that they don't have to cook them quite as long to get the sweetness that they like. But I just prefer just salt and butter and oil. They took about 45 minutes to get to the deep golden color that I prefer. I was stirring them constantly to make sure they cooked nice and evenly and they weren't burning or anything or stuck to the pan. I accidentally put way too much butter in, so you don't need that much butter, but there was no going back. I didn't turn back. I just set these aside once they were done cooking until I was ready to make the sandwich. And yeah, super happy to not have to wait 45 minutes when I was starving for dinner. So make them ahead of time. The filling for the sandwich is actually super simple. Love barbecue chicken flavor. And so all I did was use some rotisserie chicken. This is just my preferred chicken, like already cooked and seasoned and always really like juicy and tender. So this was cold in my refrigerator, and I just cut off the breasts of the chicken and then chopped those up into like chunks. I wanted a decent texture, so I didn't want to like shred the chicken. You can use whatever chicken you prefer for this. So making the filling to the sandwich ahead of time can also be done. I just put the chopped rotisserie chicken into a bowl and I topped it with some honey barbecue sauce. I prefer honey barbecue flavor. It's a little bit sweeter, of course. I think it complements the sweetness of the caramelized onions, but if it's too sweet for you, definitely try a different flavored barbecue or just a regular barbecue sauce anyway. And I put in more than I kind of thought I needed because I wasn't going to put any more sauce on the bread or anything. So I kind of used a hefty bit of barbecue sauce. Make sure that all of the chicken is nice and coated with that. And then this is when I went ahead and added in my caramelized onions. I just kind of scooped them from the pan that had cooled after I got done making them. Next, you can't have a melt sandwich without loads of cheese, right? So I added some fancy cut, which is just like thinly shredded sharp cheddar cheese into that mixture and mixed everything together so that the cheese and the sauce and the chicken, they were all combined, so nothing kind of fell apart. I then went ahead for bread. I decided to get that like bakery bread from my grocery store. It's that larger multigrain kind of panini bread. So it's not, it's huge basically. I topped it with a couple of slices of sharp cheddar cheese, and then you had to do a little bit of greenery / vegetable in here, like to break up the sweetness and the cheese, in my opinion. So I just added a nice layer of fresh baby spinach for some crunch, for some greenery, and just, I don't know, color basically. And then I went ahead and put the chicken mixture on top of that. So I buttered both sides of the sandwich and I ended up grilling it in a frying pan just over medium to low heat, like a grilled cheese. If you have an indoor grill or panini press, that would probably work even better and make the bread nice and crunchy and crispy, but I do not. Grilling it this way ended up working completely fine. It was so delicious. Sydney and I shared this for dinner and it was hearty and delicious. You can definitely add like bacon to it if you eat bacon. I just don't, but I'm sure that would be delicious. Next up on the menu last week was a lemon basil orzo salad. It was a cold salad that I ended up using for like lunches, for Sydney for school, for myself. Light, refreshing, and Trader Joe's inspired me to make this myself. They have a version of it that's delicious, but I wanted to make it myself and tweak it a little bit. I love lemon. I love basil, especially moving into the warmer weather. It's just so bright and fresh. So starting out by making just half a box of orzo, and I boiled this ahead of time, strained it, and then while it was cooling, I drizzled it with a nice drizzle of good extra virgin olive oil so that it wasn't sticking together. Now, I've mentioned so many times on my channel that I love lemon. I love it so much right now. I ended up using the zest of 2 lemons, but initially I started out with 1, and then just after taste testing, you can see how much more that you want to add or whatnot. You can always add, can't take away. So I started out by zesting 1 lemon and making sure to not get to the white part because that gets really bitter. This just kind of brings out more lemon flavor as you're eating it. The lemon zest has a lot of flavor to it. And then I went ahead and juiced a whole lemon over the pasta. So since I already had the extra virgin olive oil in the cooling orzo from earlier, I didn't have to add any extra. So I just did the lemon juice, the olive oil, lemon zest, and then of course I added a little bit of sea salt and some cracked black pepper as well for some flavors. And then, of course, since this is a lemon basil orzo salad, I wanted to add a good helping of basil. I love fresh basil. What I ended up doing with this is doing a chiffonade technique with it, where all you have to do is stack the basil leaves on top of each other and then roll them tightly into a little roll. And then from there, you can slice it. So it just makes these nice, like thin little string pieces of basil. And then I added a couple of handfuls of baby spinach. I ended up rough chopping this. I just wanted to cut the basil with some baby spinach because basil, is a pretty strong flavor, and I was giving this to Sydney as well. So lots of greenery in this. I wanted it to be colorful. So I quartered up some Campari tomatoes. I love these because they're so bright and vibrant and just so juicy. I love tomatoes, and so does Sydney. So I went ahead and quartered those up and added them to the pasta salad. I used some feta cheese. You can use whatever cheese your little heart desires. I love feta. And then some black olives because Sydney loves black olives, and so do I. You can use Kalamata olives. You can add some capers to this, whatever you like. And I ended up taste testing it, which I recommend everyone does. I taste tested it and it needed more lemon in my opinion. So I ended up adding a little bit more lemon zest and a little bit more lemon juice. And then the next day, like if you're going to put this in the fridge and serve it the next day, you might need to add a little bit more. Just taste test things. The next thing I made was a broccoli cheddar soup. This is one of my favorite soups, and it is so rich and so full of cheese. So if that is up your alley, you will love this. Starting out in a large saucepan, I melted 6 tablespoons of butter and 1 cup of chopped yellow onion. I just kind of eyeballed it. And then I went ahead and cooked that until the onions were translucent, so for a few minutes. I added about like 1 tablespoon, which is like 1 large garlic clove, in there, and then cooked that for like another minute or so. And then I ended up making a little roux with that. So I added about a 1/4 cup of flour and then mixed everything all up. This is going to thicken your soup. And then I whisked in 3 1/4 cup of milk. I used, I think, 1% milk in here. And then I also added some low sodium chicken broth. I used like a 1/2 carton of that. Just kind of eyeball it to see how thick you want it. Just remember that you are going to add lots of cheese to this, so it's going to thicken up even more. I like my broccoli cheddar soup Panera style with a little bit of carrots in there. You can use matchstick carrots. I just kind of like thinly sliced up my own since I had some baby carrots on hand and just threw a handful of them in there. And then I cooked everything for a few minutes until the carrots softened, until the mixture came to a boil and started to thicken. Just make sure you stir this very often because you don't want to that creaminess is going to stick to the bottom of the pan sometimes. So just make sure you're constantly stirring and scraping up the bottom. I used frozen broccoli in this recipe this week. I've made it before with fresh broccoli and both work just fine. If you're going to do fresh broccoli, just make sure to cut it up super small and then put it in when you put the carrots in. So it has time to thicken and then the broccoli has time to cook as well. So once the mixture has come to a boil and it's nice and thick and the broccoli is cooked through, go ahead and shut the heat off and add a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And then I added a whole bag, like 10 ounces of sharp shredded cheddar cheese. Wow, that was hard to say. And then mix everything in. A recipe that I found on Pinterest does say to add some Parmesan cheese. I tried it this time. I didn't even notice a difference, but I did add just a little bit of shredded Parmesan as well. And then I went ahead and seasoned with a little bit of salt and pepper to taste, and just taste test it depending on what kind of chicken broth you're using. You know, cheese has a lot of sodium in it already, so just test it before you dump a whole lot of sodium in there. And then I filled my bowl up with it, served it with a little bit more shredded cheddar, and it was so comforting, so delicious, but it is super thick, so pretty heavy. Delicious though. The next recipe I made was a white chicken chili, and I have never had chili before because I don't eat beef. I've been seeing lots of people making this white chicken chili around, and I was intrigued, but I honestly did not think I would like it. I just kind of made it to see, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was delicious. Sydney loved it. I loved it. And it's a perfect like cold, rainy day or a Sunday meal because I made it in the crock pot. So of course, crock pot meals are like the best, right? I ended up using 4 chicken tenders. You can use chicken breasts if you like. I seasoned them with some salt and pepper. Sprinkled them with a little bit of garlic. And then for seasonings, we have cumin, garlic powder, onion powder, and oregano. And then I topped it with low sodium chicken broth. In hindsight, I definitely used too much chicken broth because it was a little bit more soupy than I think chili is supposed to be. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've, like I said, never had it. I've just seen it visually. Then I added some sweet corn, canned corn, some white cannellini beans, and this green salsa verde with chilies, jalapenos. It was mild salsa. It looks so gross right now, but it was delicious. A lot of recipes called for just green chili, and I couldn't find any, so I ended up using the green chili salsa, and I thought it was still good, but let me know if that was totally wrong. And then a block of cream cheese. And all I did was put this on low for a few hours until it all cooked together, and then shredded up the chicken afterwards. I did top it with some shredded cheese and a lime and some lime tortilla chips and crushed those all up. And I tried not to get too much of the liquid in there because I thought a chili was supposed to be more like chunky. Maybe I just didn't use enough chicken or filling things, but it was so delicious. All right, you guys, that's gonna do it for the meals that I made this week. I hope you enjoyed, got a little bit of inspiration. Of course, play around with ingredients, experiment with different recipes and ingredients, adding bacon in if you want it. Maybe substitute the chicken for, beef or turkey or whatever. But I hope you guys got some inspiration on this video. I will, of course, continue to share recipes with you guys because I am a foodie at heart. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye, don't forget me.
She's just back here living her best life.
And I'm pajamas.
Yep, because it's 8:30 in the morning.